Welcome back to The Growth Show. I'm your host, Whitney Bateson, and I am so excited to welcome guest Hailey Rowe to the podcast today. So Hailey is a marketing and sales coach, strategist, and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. She helps service-based business owners, especially coaches and wellness professionals, get more time back and boost sales without being held back by social media overwhelm. She shares her FAST framework, marketing, and business tips in her Health Coach Nation podcast and in her Marketing Hub Facebook group. We have a link to that, so make sure you join it. It's a free group that she has. She's been named one of the top 25 coaches in Chicago by Chicago Entrepreneur Magazine and one of the top 6 business podcasts for health coaches by the Primal Health Coach Institute. Since 2010, Hailey has worked in the coaching industry and in business development and marketing for startups. Hailey's philosophy is, and I resonate with this so much, you can have an amazing service and impact to make, but without a strong mindset and sales and marketing plan, your business will remain a hobby. But luckily today, Hailey is filled with so much knowledge and information about how to turn your business into something that is generating more leads and more sales for you in a much more automated way. We're going to be talking all about her freebie funnel formula and lots of tips and insights about how to really make your email marketing work for you. So I can't wait to dive into this. Let's get into the conversation. Welcome, Hailey, to the show. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, this is such an exciting topic. But before we dive into the meat of what we're talking about today, I'd love to hear a bit more of your background. And because you've been in the coaching industry since 2010, which is like light year for a business and just in general. So what inspired you to pursue this path, and how has the industry changed since you started?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a little story about how I got into it and how it's changed for sure. So I was an old soul from a pretty young age, and at 16, I started to sell fitness DVDs and do some wellness type of coaching, and had my parents like sign my legal guardian documents and all this stuff
Oh
because I
my
was a minor.
gosh.
And I would sell fitness DVDs at bridal expos and things like that. And it got my feet wet in the world of personal development and sales and enjoying, marketing and having the autonomy to have your own business. And so I knew one day when I was an adult that I wanted to be a business owner. And I ended up getting a bunch of different coaching certifications, some having to do with behavioral change, some having to do with more life coaching and like personal development. And then I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship. And after college, I worked in the startup world in business development and marketing. And the companies that I worked for were either in the coaching world, one was a coaching certification company, or in the wellness world. And so it was kind of combining all of my different passions of coaching and wellness and business. And I loved doing the marketing and business development. And that was kind of my jam. But what I didn't realize, and I'm sure many people listening here have this thought, I thought that having a day job was a safer route. I kept putting off starting my business because I kept saying, I just need, more experience. I need more time working at this company. And one day, the entire team got let go in a Zoom call. And
Oh
it was
no.
because they were having delays in being able to fully launch, and they didn't foresee these things. And so I realized at that point, this actually, having my own business, I can't get fired from. And as long as I stick with it, it can work. And so I had enough confidence at that point to finally say, okay, if I'm going to do it at some point, now is the time. And went all in 2017, started my Health Coach Nation podcast at that point. And this is when coaching, a lot of people thought coaches were just cheerleaders or like a sports coach, and they didn't really know there's this whole world where you could
Yeah.
have a coach to help you with your health, your habits, your fitness, your nutrition, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I realized as well at that stage that many coaches have a great heart and passion for helping people, and they want to do this as their career. But then when it comes to the business side of things, they just don't know what to expect. They don't know that not everyone you talk to is going to be a yes. They don't know the general stats. So
Yeah.
becomes very overwhelming. And my mission is to help you make it less overwhelming and be able to turn this into your career.
Oh man. Well, that's such a great story that you finally, took the opportunity because it can be tough. Entrepreneurship is definitely challenging, but when you're dealt kind of a hand, obviously you can go one way or the other. And so that's really great that you said, okay, I'm going to go all in on this, especially if you were an entrepreneur at 16. I'm glad that you came back to it and
Yeah.
and saw it through. And very similar in terms of I started off my business with seeing dietitians and nutritionists just wanting to help people, but just not having those tools. So I love that you're focusing on what is definitely a topic, especially that sales side of things. So many
Mhm.
people are just like, I don't like sales and I'm not sales focused. I don't want to come off as sleazy and all of that. And I'm sure that that's a big thing of what you kind of dispel with your clients too, that you don't have to be sleazy and there is a way to
Yeah.
do it. But yeah, I agree. I think I had as soon as I started my business, I had a coach. I had a business coach and I have a marketing
Nice.
coach. And there's just so many different coaches out there. And I think, it has gotten, there are a lot of coaches. And I think it's important to find someone that you really jive with and feel good that they're going to help you and all of that. But then there's just so much value in having a coach.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like, this starting a business is almost like a whole new degree that you'd get in like college or something. And so
Yep.
when you're learning it from scratch the very first time, you're going to have the learning curve of doing it and the overwhelm of trying to figure out what are the steps. And so if you can have somebody to help you organize the steps, prioritize the steps, know what steps to take, maybe share some mistakes to avoid, things like that, I
Right.
agree it can be very valuable.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And just also be that cheerleader too, but
Yeah.
that's only a portion of the value of someone who's actually been there and is helping you along the way. But yeah, that moral support, I know for me when I was starting out, I needed it quite a bit.
Hmm.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. So let's dive into the marketing and sales side of things. And you have this framework to help service-based businesses streamline their marketing and sales efforts. It's called the FAST framework. So can you explain a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so it's basically a summary of the types of things that you as a new coach or online service provider need to be able to have a business and have it be sustainable. And so the framework stands for followers, action, sales, time management, and transformation. And what I mean by followers is how are you going to be generating new leads and what kind of leads do you want? So making sure you're clear on who do you want to work with, and then from there, where do they hang out and what makes the most sense for you to be having new visibility every week, building new relationships every week. And a lot of times people think that they need to be on all the platforms or it all has to start on social media. But a lot of my clients honestly start with local marketing or start with developing a referral program to just, get more referrals and word of mouth. Like, so there's other routes that I think a lot of people miss out on. So we always start with like, what's the, lowest hanging fruit and then keep expanding from there. And then the action piece is how do you create content, messaging, and marketing that's compelling enough that people want to take action? So this has a lot to do with how you communicate and your overall brand message. So I do a lot of audits on my clients, like, materials, website posts, things like that. Sales is how do you invite someone to work with you and what's your sales process and making sure you're clear on that, making sure you're clear on your offerings and your business model. So a lot of my clients start with one big main program and then maybe have a downsell or something like that. So fleshing that out, making sure you feel confident in sales. And then the time management piece is what to prioritize, which is helping you, break down, okay, this week my goals are XYZ and making sure you're not falling for all the shiny objects, as we call them.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is transformation. And that's kind of two things. One, what is the personal transformation required to get to your goal? So a lot of times my clients have to overcome certain limiting beliefs or money blocks or things like that. And then the other part of transformation is making sure that the point A to point B of your offer is really clear, it's compelling, it's differentiated, and that you're using social proof or testimonials to help your marketing as well.
Oh man, you covered a lot of great stuff in there. I love that. And I love that. I mean, obviously there's a lot in each of those pieces, and we're going to dive into a little bit more of some of it. But I think it's interesting too to note that followers, that F, doesn't mean just social media followers. It encompasses like that audience in general that you're building and those connections and all of that. Because I do think that there can be, I know when I was starting my business, it's like, okay, I'm going to be on social media, but then it starts taking an hour or two of your day to get a post and no one's interacting with it. And then you get really frustrated. And at that same time, you're also not generating any business. So you're kind of losing your runway a little bit in terms of how far you can go without some more clients coming in. So, and I love what you said too about the time management and that prioritization, because I think that can be really challenging, especially when it comes to the to-do list of the marketing and sales efforts. And like, what is the most important? Like, how do you choose?
Definitely. I completely agree. And I think that a lot of times people overthink also. Like, so in addition to just the tasks, doing that post, they're overthinking, why didn't anybody like this? What, and they make it mean something. And so I think some of the time is also wasted on some of that overthinking or perfectionism or things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about one thing that is probably one of the most important, because that's the point of this episode and all of that. When it comes to funnels, specifically like a freebie funnel, because this
Yeah.
can be one of the things in your marketing stack. So what exactly is it and why is it essential for converting sales?
Yeah. So a freebie funnel is something where you are giving something free of value upfront to your audience. And that is going to be something that builds trust, gives them a quick win, allows them to see that you can help them achieve something. And then it kind of transitions into now they're in your world and you can invite them to your sales process. But before you do that, there are some things you want to be able to communicate. And the way that we communicate that in little steps is through what we call a funnel, which basically means it's a series of emails usually. Now, a funnel can actually be anything like, think of the actual funnel and how it's big at the top and small at the bottom, meaning you're
Mhm.
probably going to get a lot of people to sign up for your freebie. And then they're going to some of them are going to drop off and realize you're not a fit for them. Some are going to keep reading all the way till the end and book the call. And then the funnel gets smaller and smaller. But you can have an email funnel, you can have a different type of lead gen funnel, but the point that we're talking about today is an email funnel. And the reason why I like email funnels, and a lot of people think, well, email marketing is dead, and I completely disagree. And
Yeah.
actually, if you look at some of the stats, email marketing has some of the highest ROI for your time and for, communicating with your audience compared to any social media platform, ads, things like that. So
Mhm.
the reason I like email funnels is it's more intimate with your audience. You can even give them a personalized opportunity to communicate back with you by hitting reply or whatever. It's not as crowded, like you're not on social media where you're with everyone else who's a coach on their news feed and they're just swiping through. You're actually in their inbox. So there's a lot of reasons why it can be beneficial. And the reason why, one of the things I talk about is with marketing and booking a client, there's kind of 4 steps that people move through, and a funnel covers it all. So the steps are connect, engage, pre-offer, and sell. And so what I mean with connect is that's how your leads find you and how you are visible to them, so that if they find your freebie and they opt in, you're now connected. Engage is finding out what's useful to them and giving them, like being able to offer something of value in your step 3, which is a pre-offer, aka your lead magnet. So the engage stage is where you're going to use language that they would use in your freebie title and make sure that it's aligned with something your people want. And that third step is giving the pre-offer. So giving that free guide or that video or webinar, whatever it is that's going to get them to opt into your list, actually giving them the thing of value and making sure they use it and enjoy it. And then the last part is sell, which is where you invite to the sales phase and do your sales emails and that kind of thing. So the email funnel is just such an efficient, scalable way to cover all of those steps compared to, slaving away at posting Instagram reels or things like that.
Yeah. And there's so many touch points that happen in the process of sales. And the more that we can just, it's a thunderstorm here. So
Oh, I can't even hear it.
Yeah, you didn't hear it? Okay, good.
No.
I'll just keep going. So anyway, but there's so many touch points that we need to be hitting when it comes to marketing. And so email can just be a great way to have people be bouncing around too, because that funnel, which I'm sure we'll talk about, can have links to other valuable content as well. You can deliver that lead magnet, but then you can be talking about different things, and they may go and look at your social, or they may go to your website and read a blog and all of that. But it is, to your point, I love, like, it's automating so much of those touch points as opposed to you having to like DM them and send them a bunch of messages or get on calls before they're ready to buy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some common mistakes that business owners make when creating their freebie funnels, and how can we avoid them?
Yeah, so some common mistakes include, number one, let's just start with the freebie itself. So sometimes I see my clients making a freebie that they think their audience should want instead of what their audience actually wants. So in other words, when I first started, I was guilty of this too. I made this extremely long ebook that I thought was so good. And little did I know my audience did not care about the topic I made the freebie about. And so you want to make sure that you're picking something micro and that they could use and digest and implement and love today, right now, in their current situation. So if you are a weight loss coach, you don't want a freebie that is, 3 ways to lose weight this year. That's really broad. You want something that's like a micro thing, like 4 ways to stop nighttime overeating tonight after dinner or something like that. Or, 4 ways to conquer nighttime overeats without insert whatever they're hating in the process or something. Like without
Feeling like you have to go to bed hungry or
yeah,
something,
without starving yourself or feeling
yeah.
like you have to go to bed hungry. Like, yeah. So that can be very narrow focused, very tangible, very usable, short and digestible, and give them a quick rush of like, ooh, I did something today that was good for me, and I wonder what else I can do. That's the goal of the freebie. So don't make the mistake of thinking it needs to be really long or it really needs to be generic or broad or anything like that. Another common mistake that I see is people's titles. So again, use numbers, use something that generates curiosity. Make sure it's in your client's own words about their struggles. If they say nighttime snacking instead of nighttime overeating, use that word instead. And then another common mistake I see is too little emails in your funnel. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to bother people. I'm just going to have this freebie email. They get the freebie and that's it. No, that is the start of continuing the conversation. So make sure that if you're going to have a funnel, the reason why we use the word funnel is because there's many touch points, as you were saying before, Whitney. So we need to have more than one email, and it's probably going to take you more touch points than you think. So don't be afraid to have a comprehensive funnel that really like gives value, educates about your program, overcomes common objections about your program, things like that. If you're using the funnel for the purpose of sales and moving the lead generation process along.
And I would say that, like, you can have a funnel for pretty much any kind of service. It doesn't have to be just for a course or for a group program. It could totally be for one-on-one counseling packages as well. It's just, what are you putting in that funnel, and what's that final call to action too? Is it jump on a discovery call with me, or is it, get on the wait list or come to this master class or whatever the case may be.
Right. And you bring up a good point that can lead to some other mistakes is when you have a call to action in your email funnel, make it super clear, make it super easy. So if it's book a call with you, you hyperlink to that call link. And the last thing I'd say about this is make sure you're addressing why would they want to do this step and why now. So don't just say book a call with me, but say book a call with me to jumpstart losing your next X pounds. And when you book your call this week, you also will get XYZ. bonus, or you will, be one step closer towards insert pain points they're removing or something. Like just try to have clarity about why would they want to do it now as opposed to later, because life is busy and their attention span is spread all over the place.
Yep. Yeah. We're always prioritizing all the time, and even if someone says, well, it's just not the right time right now, it's because they're saying that something else is more important right now. And it doesn't mean that it's your job to convince them otherwise or anything, but it's to share with them, well, why this is important to do right now. This is the benefit. This is how I can get you closer to your goal.
Mhm.
It's just education. And I think that
Yeah,
can be an easier pill to swallow for some of us who are about the helping people. It's not about convincing them or
yes,
persuading them or misleading them or anything like that.
right.
It's about just helping them uncover that because we all believe in our products. Maybe when we're getting started, we're a little unsure and, we have to keep building up that confidence, but we started our business, we started offering things because we know that we can help people. And
Mhm.
what happens is that there's just something it's holding someone back in some way. There's barriers in place. And the whole process of the emails and then getting on a call is to just help them uncover getting over those barriers or how you can help them get through
Right.
those challenges.
Yes, it's always interesting to me when people use the words like begging, convincing, persuading, asking for money when we talk about sales. Like if you see that as the definition of sales, you're always going to struggle because nobody wants to do that. Why would we ever want to beg, persuade, convince, etc.?
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you see sales as I'm inviting someone to solutions, I am helping someone find options for them to deal with something that's been really emotionally weighing on them, maybe physically weighing on them, financially weighing on them, whatever it is. And it's just my job to, hold someone accountable and help someone uh, get to where they want to be. It's much more natural to feel excited to share, right? So I think the key, if you've been feeling blocked with sales, is like, what gets you excited to share and invite instead of thinking it has to be begging, convincing, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And it's about being curious, like what's going on for that person, what's really, holding them back and all of that, and asking those questions and just trying to learn more about what's going on. And like you said, I love that, like inviting them to work with you and get your support and overcoming it. That's great. So let's talk about like the steps of the freebie funnel. And you have a freebie funnel formula. Can you walk us
Mhm.
through that and kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, how that works?
Definitely. So the first step will be to decide your captivating freebie. And that means you need to decide the title, you need to decide how it's going to be delivered, and don't overthink this. You don't need a fancy, beautiful ebook. You want something that is easy for people to access, easy to consume, and then the design can be a bonus, but it's not something you need if you're just getting started and getting your first freebie out there. You don't need to like obsess over this. It also could be a video or audio. It doesn't have to be a document, right? So think about your audience and what kind of thing would they want to consume. If they're always on the go, maybe you just have a MP like an audio thing they can listen to on their phone instead of having to read something. So that's the
Mhm.
first thing, is decide your format, decide your title, decide what the freebie is. Make sure the second step is to decide the marketing language around it. So why is this freebie juicy? Why, like, I like to come up with 3 hook points that generate interest and curiosity about my freebie. So, for example, one of the things that I have is the freebie funnel formula to convert more sales. That's one of my freebies. And it
Mhm.
goes into more deep depth of what we're talking about today. And it is, some of the juicy bullet points I talk about are like, the number one mistake people make when planning when writing posts about their freebie or something like that. So it's something that I'm not saying you are going to learn, like XYZ, very educational thing. It's more so, how can I generate interest and curiosity for what I share inside of the freebie? So come up with your 3 hook points. Then you need to decide, okay, where am I going to host my email list? And you have to decide an email CRM system. And for those of you who are like, what? What's that? That sounds very overwhelming. For most newbies, You can get a free MailerLite account. It's Mailer and then LITE.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the most, at least from what I've seen, the most free features before you have to have a paid CRM.
Okay.
So that might be a good option. There's tons of YouTube tutorials and things like that. Or if you're looking for help, this is something I help clients with. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, you need to have somewhere where you can have the emails hosted where you're not manually having to keep track. Okay, so and so signed up for wants my freebie.
Yeah.
Their email address is this. I got to manually send it to them. And then all of a sudden you have like 100 people that you have to manually email, right?
Yeah.
We need a CRM. Then we
Yeah.
have to decide, okay, what is the process you move someone through to do your freebie and then make more sales? So for most, this is kind of the phases. You have the freebie itself where they opt in, they get the email with the freebie and why they want to use it and how they can use it, make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to have some kind of like hype/nurture emails. And I call them hype/nurture because our goal in this stage is to kind of engage with the person, build excitement about your offer that's coming, and also help them see the kind of value you can bring them, maybe giving some testimonials about what's possible when they really use this freebie and,
Yeah.
book a call with you or stay tuned for your special offer you're going to be dropping. So hype and nurture. And then we move into that invitation to the sales process where, and sometimes people will have what we call like a live launch where their freebie will be an actual like live webinar you can attend or something like that. So if you're doing that, your hype emails will just be about why you need to come live, why it's going to be so exciting, what you're going to get for coming live, whatever it is. Then we kind of transition to the sales process. And those emails are going to be emails that explain the benefits of your offer, overcome the common objections or concerns your people have, address probably FAQs that people have about your offer, show what's possible with your offer with social proof or testimonials, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout, now, like honestly, for most of my clients, most of them just want to book discovery calls to see if someone's a fit to work with them and they do private
Mm-hmm.
coaching. Some of my clients
Mm-hmm.
have programs and courses and whatnot, and we can talk about that if you want, but it doesn't have to be overly complex. Like in email one, you could be like, here's your freebie, hope it goes well, here's how to use it. And if you're looking to XYZ, faster and get custom support, book a free call with me here. You don't have to do it like where you have to wait until the sales phase. Like you can casually
Mm-hmm.
mention your call to
Yeah.
action throughout these emails. But there are, we do want to move through making sure we're nurturing and building excitement for our offer and the different sales topics that we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I think I already know the answer, but is there any magic number of emails that should be in a welcome sequence?
This question gets me because it really depends on
Yeah.
your niche. It depends on what you're selling. Like if you're selling a very high ticket thing, you're probably going to need more emails. If you don't have a guarantee or something, you're probably going to need more emails. So you got to think about how much friction is there for someone brand new to me who's a stranger? How much friction is there? And if there's a lot, you're going to need more emails. So I will tell you from if you're just getting started and you just want to have a minimum baseline, literally you could just start with the freebie and the email that has the freebie. And that could be it. And you can roll with that and then just start doing newsletters to your email list, like regularly,
Mm-hmm.
having some value-based emails. And you can still get started with that. But if you're trying to have an official funnel, I would say usually 7 to 10 is a good starting point. The way
Okay.
you can spread that out would be, over a week or two. So it's not that, there's a perfect number, and if it feels, it also just depends on what you're putting in these emails too, like how short
Yeah.
are that kind of thing. So these
Yep.
are all things to consider.
No, that's all very helpful. I think it's good for people to know, like, don't go searching on the internet looking for that perfect number because no matter what advice you get, it's going to really depend on a lot of things within your niche, your product suite, what you're offering, and all of that. I think also, I love that you said, you know what, if you're just getting started, go with one email. And I know, going back to what you said about lead magnets, my first lead magnet, I spent Freebie opt-in, I spent forever building that thing out and it was so detailed. And then I wanted to make the perfect welcome sequence. And I spent forever writing it and hemming and hawing over all of the emails. And guess what? It didn't get published for months because of all of that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great to go in phases and say, yeah, have this first email, get your freebie out, get your first email out. And then, like you mentioned, then nurture, whether it's once a week or every 2 weeks or even once a month, do something to be sending emails to people. And then the next welcome sequence you can work on can be 3 emails or 5 emails, and then keep building out. Because also, if you haven't had a lot of customers yet, you may have some challenges just trying to figure out what are the objections, what are the things that I need to be mentioning in these emails. And so knowing that, hey, let me get started and have some interactions, then that gives you so many ideas.
Totally. And that is such a good point that we should drive home, is that if you are not sure what the objections are or whatever, it's okay to just start with that simple one and start to talk to more people and gather more feedback about, how did the guide go for you? What's holding you up now? Are you looking for support with XYZ? And if not, I would love any feedback about why, just because I'm trying to develop like my, my business.
Messaging
So
and
any feedback you can get. And that's so true that you want to make your emails based off of what you're hearing. So I've gone back into old email funnels. Like if I hear something over and over lately, I will be like, wow, that's really not clear in my marketing. So I need to make sure I have an email about that. So you may evolve this over time as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, I mean, some people love revising their stuff. Some people, I hate having to go back, but it is important. And it's also good too, if you have a freebie that's doing really well and people are consistently downloading it and all of that, it makes sense to go and look at the funnel and look at the emails, and rather than reinventing the whole thing, just improve what you currently have and apply some of these ideas to it as well.
Yeah.
And so then what happens after the freebie funnel ends? So they've gone through, let's say, 7 emails. What happens then?
Then they are now on your list, and now you can do newsletters or nurture emails. And when I say newsletters, I don't mean using like, how any mailer system you have is probably going to have like a template for a newsletter where it's like, here are my recent blogs, here are my recent recipes, here is, the quote of the day. I don't mean that. I just mean sending out regular emails that add value, that, enhance your relationship with your audience, that educate or help them address a pain point. So you want to do regular newsletters once a week at least, if you can. It's not too much. Don't worry. And if it really helps you to know, like 60% of people require at least 4 touch points before they even respond or like know who you are. So
that's not even making a sale. That's even just like acknowledging your existence.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to be regular with your newsletters, especially if they're good and they're helpful for people.
Right. Yeah. I know, sometimes I used to really like stress about my unsubscribes, but then I realized like, you just got to keep moving forward, and people are going to unsubscribe. They're going to find that it's not the right fit. Like you had mentioned earlier, they may come back later too. That happens too. So don't worry about that, as long as you're putting your all into the emails. I think focusing on good subject lines is really important too, so that people will actually open those emails and not want to just hit unsubscribe as soon as it lands in their inbox, because the people that are your people are going to be appreciative and thankful to be getting that email from you every week. And those are the right people. So
if they unsubscribe, they weren't your people anyways, and it's not your job to, and the other thing to keep in mind is people are at different stages in their buying process, meaning some people are like really looking for you and your solutions and ready to buy now, and those are the best people to stay and be on your list. And other people are like, I'm kind of putting feelers out, and they need to be nurtured more with the newsletters, and they probably like that. And so you just need to remember, it's okay if they unsubscribe. It doesn't mean it's just the data,
Yep. Yeah. And I've had people that have been in my ecosystem on my list for 2 years, 3 years before deciding to move forward. So sometimes that timeline is just a little long, and that's totally fine. So I love that point. And then in addition to the newsletters, the funnel is the time when you pitch and you invite for someone to book a call, but we don't want that to be the last time that we
Right.
invite that. So like, do you have any recommendations in terms of like the cadence of that, or how often to kind of
Yeah.
bring it back up?
Well, you can have casual, it depends on your call to action, but you're allowed to have a call to action in every newsletter. It could be, now every newsletter is not going to be just about that, and it's not
Right.
going to be buy my program in every email, but it could be book a call with me. It could be hit reply to this email and let me know what your goal is for the month. I mean, it can be engaging with them or booking a call or checking out your blog or checking out your podcast, and all those things within them could have offers to work with you or could have an ad in your podcast about your program. So you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
casual call to action throughout. But if you're
Great.
trying to do like, how many times should I launch heavily and like do sales emails? I mean, you could do it quarterly. You could do it however much you want, honestly. If you want to sprinkle in, like, let's say you do 4 newsletters a month. If you wanted one of those four to be just about a sales offer, you could do that, or you could sprinkle in like what I call flash sales. That's special for just the people on your list, where
Mm-hmm.
maybe as being a part of your list, they get some kind of special deal this weekend only if they buy your
Yeah.
course or something. So there's fun ways you can get creative with it. And it also depends on, are you the kind of person who does like a live launch where you do a webinar or something like that 4 times a year and you really hype it up? Or are you kind
Mm-hmm.
of always open? And so you're going to have more casual call to actions, and then maybe every once in a while have like a little burst, like one of those 40
Mm-hmm.
is more focused on sales.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And there's some content that's going to be a little bit more like inclined to those calls to action. Like if you're going to highlight a testimonial or a case study of a client, then that makes sense to then say, if you want these results or you want to work with me too, you can give a little bit more real estate from your newsletter to talking more about your offer and all of that versus, you're just kind of covering like 5 foods that are trending right now. Are they legit or not?
Yeah.
Then maybe it's more of just like a link to book a call at the bottom and you can kind of decide. So I like that. It's not like a steadfast rule of you have to do it this way or the other, but I do want to just ask everyone, please make sure you do ask for the sale and you do invite for
Yeah.
the sale, because I think that can be the other challenge of then going, okay, they went through the funnel, they didn't buy. So
Hmm. Hmm.
now I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm just going
Right.
to keep sending value. It's like you
Yep, totally. And make
gotta put
sure
it
it's
in there.
not, a lot of times people use wishy-washy language when they're asking for the sale to be like, let me know if this sounds good
Yeah.
to you. Instead of like, want to do XYZ, schedule your free, like very direct, like schedule your free call here and
Yep.
get XYZ. Like make sure you're not using that wishy-washy, like maybe if you're thinking about doing blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or if you want to
Right.
learn more and that's it, that's a really weak call to action.
Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you for those tips. All right. Well, we covered a lot of ground today. You are just a wealth of information. So thank you so much, Hailey, for answering all my questions about this. What's like one last actionable piece of advice that you would like our listeners to take away from today's conversation?
Yeah, well, two things come to mind, and thank you for this interview and time. If you're listening to this and you're like, wow, this whole freebie thing sounds pretty good, I need to grow my list, you can get my free From Crickets to Clients training that takes you through how to set up your, freebie funnel, meaning how do you choose your freebie? How do you go through those different phases we talked about? And that's at haileyrowe.com/live event, all one word. And then the other piece of advice that I would share is I think one of the biggest things, if you're trying to succeed in business, is not just about your strategy. And I do coach a lot on strategy. I'm a strategist and a coach, but the thing that I think is most important is your traits and who you are while you're building a business. And I think that the most important trait is willingness So willingness to feel very uncomfortable emotions, willingness to keep going until it works, willingness to put yourself out there without knowing for sure if it's going to have a direct impact on your business. Like that to me is the most important thing I see in the people who actually succeed in entrepreneurship.
I love how you put it because yeah, people could say perseverance or grit
Mhm.
and all of that, but I love that willingness because yeah, you have to be willing. It's going to feel uncomfortable. This sounded so easy. Okay, you write these emails. I'm sure there's some people that are going to sit down and try and write those emails, and it's going to start. You're going to get a knot in your chest and feeling like this just isn't coming easily to me, and that willingness to keep going. I love that advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah. All right. Well, all the links for Hailey, getting in touch with her, and all the great resources that you have available are also in the show notes. And just thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of The Growth Show. And a huge thanks to Hailey for joining us and sharing just all of your amazing knowledge, lots of great tips and insights. And I think we probably dispelled a few myths and clarified a few things when it came to email marketing and funnels and how to really get your sales working for you. So thank you so much, Hailey. And Hailey is full of lots of resources that we talked about and even many more. So check out the show notes. Grab links to those, connect with Hailey. If you like how she approaches sales and marketing, you should definitely learn more and connect with her and just check out her website and podcast too. So if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, to leave a review, share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time on The Growth Show.